7 hacks for teaching online. Hack 2. Be true to you. This is about connection. I remember listening to a friend of mine tell a story, and she was speaking about her mum, and she said, when I was growing up, my mum was physically quite a large person. And she said, in my teenage years, I remember a specific day where we had some friends and family over and we were swimming in the pool. And she said, this particular day, my mum had decided to come out and get in the pool. And she said, as a teenager, I had this realization that my mum, being a physically larger person, was one of the first to get in the pool, to talk, to play, to engage with the other family members and the other kids that were playing in the pool at this particular time. And she told this story, and she said, I reflected as a teenager that my mum was super confident even though she was a physically large person. And she said that night when everyone had gone home, I said to her, Mum, all my friends are really worried about how they look, and I've started thinking about that, Mum. And she said, I noticed today that you were okay and you just jumped in the pool and got involved with everyone. And she said, my mum said this phrase back to me that I've remembered ever since. She said, my mum looked back at me and said, well, honey, this is who I am. And she said it in a way that wasn't, hands on hips. Well, you know what, this is who I am. So, you can like it or you can leave. It wasn't with that kind of attitude. She actually said, well, honey, this is who I am. And in response to that, her mum's example of being okay with who she was actually fueled and characterized her for the rest of her life. And so as we talk about hack number 2, be true to you, I want to start out by saying who you are is one of the most attractive things you have got going for you. Who you are, what makes you you, the way you speak, the way you teach, your cultural background, your experiences, your upbringing, your family. I know we've all got crazy people in our family, right? I think I am the crazy person in my family. But really, with all of these things that make up who you are, this is one of the best things you have got going for you. I can remember a university lecturer, this time not so helpful. In Hack 1, I talked about an amazing university lecturer. But I do remember one university lecturer making a throwaway comment saying, you know what, when you teach, what you need to do is leave your personality at the door. And I couldn't disagree more. One of the best things that you can do in order to be a great teacher who teaches online is to amplify your personality. Who you are is so attractive. Judy Garland said this. She said, be a first-rate version of yourself, not a second-rate version of someone else. I read recently, authenticity is the new black. Isn't that cool? And this is important in all aspects of life, and this is important in all aspects of teaching. And when it comes to online teaching, I think it's even more important, because one of the only ways you have to connect with your students is through this little camera. Now, we'll talk about hand gestures and facial expressions and all of that stuff. But if you can just dig into who you are, into what makes you you, you are helping to connect and to communicate with all of those students on the other side of the camera. Who you are is so attractive. And when it comes to being a great online teacher, you need to amplify who you are. My sister, she's the deputy of an incredible school in Sydney here in Australia. And she was telling me the other day that she had to do a recording, and she did an online video for the students in her school. And one of the things she did, I've actually seen this video since, is she actually brought her dog onto the video with her. And she got great comments, but most of the comments, what I'm about to say, were not about what she was actually talking about. It was actually about her dog. Why? Because that is who she is. She is a dog person. She introduced her dog blog to the school, and what that did in terms of the school students and the staff actually being able to relate to her made a huge difference. Why? Because being true to you is a thing that fuels your effectiveness as a teacher. Don't leave your personality at the door of the online classroom. Don't try and be all beige and plain, unless of course you are beige and plain, and then please embrace that and we will learn that from you. What I'm saying is, don't deflate or downplay or reduce your personality when you are teaching to and through this camera, right? To be a great online teacher, you need to be true to you. This is about making connection with your students. You know what it's like when we're in a physical classroom, right? Or perhaps you've been in a classroom or in a PD at a professional development day or something like that, and you can think of the great ones and you can think of the not so great ones. I run professional development days, and I hope that I'm in the first camp, the great ones. But that's a topic for another day. But you can think of those ones where the person speaking to you, even as an adult learner, connected with you. You felt like you could relate to them. It's exactly the same when we're teaching online. Even if your students know you, there is a bunch of stuff they don't know about you. I was talking to a teacher recently, and they have started online teaching. And so at the beginning of their teaching week, they get all of the students to come on live onto their cameras. I don't know what platform you use in your school. There's lots of platforms that we use across schools to be able to connect with our students online, right? And some of us, we're all learning to do that really, really fast with everything that's going on globally right now. And this year 4 teacher had a roll call with all of her year 4 students. It took an hour. This was the first time that they had done it. Why? Because those students wanted to connect with their teacher, and that teacher wanted to connect with the students. In fact, one of those year 4 boy students, wanted to take his teacher on a tour of his house, right? Because this is also new. This is, for many of us, teaching in classrooms, teaching online is new. What's the point of this? The point is that teacher was being very wise in connecting with their student, in making a point of having that connection with your student. And whether you teach maths, whether you teach industrial technology, whether you are a primary school teacher, wherever you are in the teaching space, you must remember to be intentional about connecting with your students. And you know how you do that? This is really easy. Just be yourself. Tell them about what's going on in your life. Tell them about your dog or a renovation that you're doing. Let who you are permeate the online teaching space. Hack to, be true to you. This is all about connection.